Administrator, Air Chief Marshals and Acting Australian Deputy Prime Minister Warren Truss, as well as Chinese transport ministers, are attending a trilateral meeting to decide on the next course of action. They discussed their approach regarding deployment of assets, engagement with victims' families, and expert and technical advice. An unmanned submarine is continuing to scan the Indian Ocean floor off Western Australia, where signs consistent with the plane's black box were detected in early April. Not a single piece of confirmed debris from the airline's flight has been recovered by a massive multinational hunt that began after it disappeared on March the 8th with 239 people on board. Well, the future of accountants of colour hangs in the balance as one of the key bursary organisations battles for funding. The Thuthuka Bursary Fund by the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants strives to support the vision of the Chartered Accountants chapter by advancing the education of the youth. The fund has become a transformation tool that addresses racial imbalances in this field. Joining me now is Nthato Selebi, the Project Director for Thuthuka Bursary Fund. Very good morning to you, Nthato. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. Just how long has this program been running?
The Thuthuka Bursary Fund has been running for 10 years now. As the country celebrates 20 years of democracy, we are celebrating 10 years in operation, having funded over 2,800 students in the process, and having managed to actually get quite a few students to qualify as chartered accountants.
Obviously, when we speak about transformation, how does this program work?
The way the program works is we identify students from school level who have the academic ability and the interest to become chartered accountants, and we support them through their university studies by not only providing funding, but also by providing a support program that those students do not succumb to the pitfalls that we all know exist within higher education. And therefore, they then go through and qualify as chartered accountants.
It's obviously, just explain the process. It's a lengthy process to become a chartered accountant.
To become a chartered accountant takes 7 years.
It's like a doctor.
Yeah, it takes 3 years of undergrad study, 1 year of postgrad study, 3 years of articles, training to become a CA, and in that 3 years you also write 2 qualifying examinations. Only at the end of all of those do you then register and qualify as a chartered accountant.
And what kind of costs are involved with this?
The costs are astronomical, especially if you're looking at students who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, who might be the first generation university attendees. You're talking anywhere between 350 to 500,000 a year to support. Well, yeah. It costs that much to be able to provide all the kind of support that you need to provide if you're talking accommodation, transport, meals, all of those things. So it's actually quite costly to be able to take a student through university, ultimately through to them qualifying as a chartered accountant.
Now, where in the past have you received your funding from?
Our funding comes from corporate, it comes from individuals, it comes from, we call them the big four, big five, the accounting firms, but actually it comes across the spectrum from all companies and individuals who recognize that transformation is something that does need to happen, and that needs to happen very quickly in our country.
How many students are taken care of on an annual basis?
On an annual basis, we're looking at about 1,000 students that we take care of in the pipeline, because we're looking at the 3 years of undergrad study as well as the 1 year of postgrad study, where we need to actually be funding them. So it's about 1,000 students each year.
Obviously, that funding seems to have dried up. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the funding hasn't dried up. It's just that, fortunately, or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, at the end of 2013, we had a very strong matric class passing. Not only were they passing very well, but their math symbols were also very strong. So we actually couldn't necessarily just let these ones go. We had about 800 students which we could actually fund. And we ended up funding 356 first years, when our budget basically wasn't quite allowing for the 356. So for us, it's just there's a difference of about 70 or so students that we desperately need to funding for this year.
So it's not as if it's dried up, you just need more.
We just need more, because we have more students that are coming into the pipeline, that are showing interest, that have the academic ability to do so, and basically we just couldn't just leave them by the roadside and say, listen, hard luck, we couldn't do anything for you. So we took them on with the hope that South Africans will come on board and recognize that what we're doing is in the best interest of the country, and be able to support those 70 students or so.
I think an important point is the best interests of the country. I mean, that's the bottom line. We need chartered accountants. It's an important gap to fill in the market. Just mentioned, it's not an easy gap to fill because it is a difficult degree to do.
It definitely is, because as we said, the 7 years has in itself, pitfalls that allow, that make sure that student doesn't qualify. And given the skills shortage that we have in our municipalities, in our provinces, all over the country, we have been one of the most very successful skills development initiatives that happens to be involved in transformation as well. So this is in the best interest of our country to grow the number of chartered accountants, to enable our country's economy to grow at the levels that it should.
Do you only deal with chartered accountants, or do you deal in other industries or other spheres as well?
Currently, as the Bursary Fund, we focus only on chartered accountants, but we have been called upon by government and by the ministry to assist other professions in basically getting initiatives of the same sort underway, because it's not just chartered accountants where the demographics are still very skewed. So we're basically assisting many other professions to try and do the very same thing in the last 10 years.
So what are you needing to get those extra 70 through?
Well, I mean, what we're needing is between 3 and 5 million rands that we need to raise between now and the end of the year to be able to get those students through. But it's not just to get them through this year. It's to ensure that they stay on the program for the duration of their studies, as opposed to just the 1 year that they be able to stay on right now. So between 3 and 5 million rand is what we would need.
I guess another pitfall is the dropout rate. Is there a high dropout rate in amongst those? First year it's all great. You want to be a chartered accountant, but to get through the 7 years, it takes a lot of hard work.
Funny enough, in terms of the normal route, if you will, the dropout rate is quite high. You're correct, especially after second year. But when you look at the Thuthuka program, the dropout rate is actually minimal, because we strive for a 70% pass throughput rate year on year, and our students are achieving above that. So within the Thuthuka Bursary Fund, the program itself is designed to minimize the dropout rate, and we've been successfully been able to do that.
Fantastic, a fantastic initiative. Nthato Selebi is a project manager for Thuthuka Bursary Fund. They fund chartered accountants, up-and-coming chartered accountants, from first year all the way through to their working lives. They're just needing more funding to get some extra people through there. Appreciate your time, Nthato. Good luck with that project, which continues. We're going to check in now with the AAN7 Weather Centre to see what your weather will be like for the rest of the day.